Okay, today is Monday, January 4th, 2020. This is Barberton City Council. We will be going into our committee meetings. The first committee is Mr. Greer with streets, sidewalks, and lighting.
All right. Well, I'll be the guinea pig. Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to bring to order street, sidewalk, and lighting. Today is January 4th, 2021. The time is 6 p.m. and we are virtual on virtual meeting. All committee members are present, along with guests noted by Council Clerk. For topics of discussion, we have no request for legislation. For miscellaneous discussion, I have none. Is there any questions or comments from the committee members? Any questions, comments from rest of council? All right. Well, hearing none, it's going to be fun. Hearing none. Sorry, Mr.
Are we live streaming?
We are live streaming.
Where are we live streaming at, Justin?
This is in the city of Barberton.
YouTube?
Yeah, I see it now.
Yep.
Okay.
What's YouTube? City of Barberton YouTube?
Yeah, Barberton City Council YouTube. That's just
Barberton
for
City
reference, so public can watch in on this as with this current setup. All right, so Mr. Tracy, do you have anything for streets?
Somebody's got to mute when you're not talking because I hear the delay of your YouTube.
All right. Mr. Tracy, do you have any comments for streets?
All right, I just wanted to say thank you to, all the residents and businesses in the city for Christmas Day. We had all that snow and instituted a parking ban, and it helped tremendously. We're able to get all the streets cleared in a very timely manner. So there was such great participation throughout the city that it was just extremely helpful. It was one of the smoothest ones that we've ever had. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Is there any other miscellaneous discussion for street, sidewalk, or lighting? All right. Well, hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I will make the motion to adjourn.
All right. That was motion made by Mrs. Angela.
And I'll second that motion.
All right. Thank you.
Good.
Seconded by Mrs. Fry. We are now adjourned at 6:03 p.m.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up is Environmental Health and Social Services with Mr. Jaber.
Thank you, Mr. President. Environmental Health and Social Services. Date today is January 4th, 2021. We are meeting online today, the Go meeting. The time is right now 6:04. Members present, noted. Other members and visitors also noted from the secretary. Thank you. We have no new request legislation, and I'm opening this up for miscellaneous discussion to committee members. Council.
I have none.
Mr. Griffin?
I have none, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, opening this up to other council members.
No questions.
Okay, awesome. Hearing none. Motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Mr. Griffin? Can I get a second, please? Mr. Heidick?
Can you hear Tom?
President, can I get a second?
You can second that.
I can second myself?
Yep.
All right, and I will second that. I think we lost Mr. Griffin somewhere. Mr. Heidick, I mean. Mr. Heidick. All right, we are adjourned at 6:05. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Next up is planning, annexation, and codes with Mrs. Angela.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning, Annexation, and Codes is meeting January 4th at 6:07 p.m. All members are present along with guests as noted on my sheet. Topics of discussion. We have a piece of legislation request. It's a draft ordinance titled Zoning Map Amendment, Austin Drive, authorizing the rezoning of partial 01.013686, a 4.04 acre parcel on Austin Drive from C3 Community Center Commercial to RA16 Single Family Attached. As you noticed on the meeting agenda, that Mr. Hunt will be having a public hearing in regards to this. But I wanted to say that on the December 16th Planning Commission meeting, it was unanimously approved by the Planning Commission to send it to council to change the rezoning of this. And the owner of the property is Lemon Acquisition, and Ryan Homes is planning on building townhomes on that piece of property. They will be 3 stories, single family attached. They'll have 3 to 4 to a building. The price was, and this was from the last meeting, so I'm just taking this off, anywhere between 160 to 170 per unit. You will own the land and you will buy the house. I think I hope everybody got a packet from planning. Can you nod if you got one? I think it was supposed to be sent email. Do you know if anything was sent?
You know, I was looking for them today because I thought they had gone out, and I actually stumbled upon them. I have a PowerPoint presentation that I plan to share, Councilwoman Angela.
Okay, thank you. So with that, do I have a motion to bring this out of committee?
I'll make a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Medges, first, second.
I'll second the motion.
Mrs. Coburn, second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oh, no.
Okay, and then we'll look at the presentation that Mr. Hunt has on the whole 4 acres. Second thing I have is a appointment to the Design Review Board, Joyce Barron. It's a 3-year appointment, commences January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2023. Now, if you received her application in that, you can see that she's been on the Board of Zoning since 2016, and she's never missed a meeting. And she is very valuable on the Design Review Board because she understands the difference in different communities, and she has traveled extensively to about 48 states, including Canada. And she knows that every Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month, there's always a Design Review Board. So I would like to have a motion to bring this forward to appoint Joyce Barron. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Mrs. Coburn?
And I'll second that motion.
Second. Mr. Greer? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Any miscellaneous discussion with the committee? Any miscellaneous discussion with the body? Do I have a motion?
Yes, I
to
do.
adjourn?
I'm
sorry. Yes, Mr. Jabber?
I'm sorry. First, I was going to say thanks for the great work from the planning director and other planning department for working on that co-part and also working on the tattoo shop and also working on the thrift shop on Worcester Road. It's great to see. Getting a lot of great feedback from residents and other business owners. So great work, guys. It was awesome to see that today in the packet. You guys rock. And that's it.
Thank you. Anything else from anybody on the body? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Midges, do I have a second?
And I'll second.
Mr. Greer? And we are adjourned at 6:12 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Finance and Personnel, Mrs. Fry.
Mr. Medges,
Yes.
President Medges,
Yes.
this is Elizabeth Doherty. I just wanted on the record that I've been on the call since the beginning of the meeting at 6 o'clock. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mrs. Fry, you're up.
I am up now. It is Monday, January 4th. The time is 6:11, and we are meeting online. All members of the committee are present, as well as council people and guests as noted. We have no requests for legislation this evening. I just have one thing for finance, and that is an appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals. And this appointment is for Mr. Richard Waltz. It's a 3-year appointment commencing on January 1st, 2021, ending December 31st, 2023. We have gone over this particular appointment before, and we do have the information on his boards and commissions questionnaire. And Mr. Waltz is a lifelong Barbertonian and has served on other boards for the city, and at one time was the utilities director. Does anybody have any comments about Mr. Waltz? Hearing none, do I have a motion to call for his appointment?
I will make that motion.
Is that you, Nina? Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Medges. And all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No.
All right, we had 3 yeses and 1 no. Is there any miscellaneous discussion that anyone would like to have concerning finance?
I have a question, please.
Okay, Mr. Jaber.
Is there a reason why we're bringing him back on this? Bring this back on for Mr. Waltz? Is there a reason why we're bringing this back on there? Didn't we already vote on a no already?
I beg your pardon? I didn't hear.
Didn't we already vote no on this? Didn't we vote no already? Is there a reason why we're bringing Mr. Waltz back?
Some of the reasons that you voted no were not valid. Actually, it was
nobody else
computer
nobody else is valid for this?
I beg your pardon?
There was nobody else who was capable of doing this job also? Anybody else who's you guys could
I don't know
or,
if we got any other. I don't know if we got any other applications for this particular position. Mayor, can you tell us? Mayor
Yes.
Judge?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So he currently sits on the board. So whenever someone's currently on the board and doing a good job and there's no issues, I asked them if they want to serve again. He wanted to serve again. It's my understanding the reason that he was voted no previously by council was because he was not up on technology and he did not have a computer. He does have a computer. His email address was on the previous application, as it is this one. So if that was the only reason, I wanted to resubmit his name because he still wants to serve. We have put new members across the board on various boards and commissions, and we're going to continue to do that. But for this case, the reason that he was voted no with the lack of a computer was not correct. So I wanted to resubmit for confirmation.
Mr. Mayor, is this position, is it something appointed, or is this something that we would look for from other residents in the Barberton? Would this go for online, where somebody can apply for this, or is this something?
Yeah, so we post something in the press every year for open positions, and then we collect resumes. So we try to match people, their backgrounds and interests with what possible board vacancies will be available.
And where did this application go online? Where did you post this one at?
It was in the Barberton Herald, and I believe the Beacon Journal, and on social media.
Okay. Is there any way you can email me that information tomorrow for me when you get back to the office, please? Can you pull that out?
Yeah.
Can you find that information?
Yeah.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
We also put in the reporter as well.
All right. So like I said, if you can't send me the information with the dates, please. Thank you, sir.
Mrs. DeBevick, I saw your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering, because I have the same exact application as last time. Were we supposed to get a different application?
No, if you recall several weeks ago, since he sits on two boards, he filled out the one application thinking it could be used for both. I asked if anyone wanted one geared specifically for this board, and no one said that they did. That's my understanding that the only issue previously was having a computer, which he does have one.
Okay, thank you. I would misunderstood then, because I thought you said that his email is on this application as well as the last application, and I only had the same application, so I was just confirming that.
Yep.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Mr. Heidick. Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Mayor, if I may ask, there was a technological question. As you can see by now that we are all remote, do you believe fully in Mr. Waltz's ability to be able to attend virtual meetings and to participate as needed? Because what problem I see is if somebody can't serve virtually and doesn't show an understanding of it, then put yourself in the citizen's shoes that if you have an appeal before them and the vote is split without a deciding vote, it's pretty much a loss, and that's kind of a disservice to the citizens. So my question is, do you have full faith that he can indeed participate in virtual? It's just the environment we live in right now. Normally, I would say if we could meet in person, there would be no issue, but is there full faith that he can actively participate in any meeting at any time virtually? Thank you.
Yes.
Mrs. Angeloff.
Yes, and I think too that if you can't do it virtually, you can do it by phone. And I'm sure Mr. Waltz has a cell phone, if not his home phone, and you can do the meeting, even though you don't see, you can still participate in that meeting by using your cell phone.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Since there are any other subjects anybody wants to discuss?
Chairwoman Fry.
Justin?
This is Jeremy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't see you. And you sounded like Justin. Okay. Hi, Jeremy.
JJ.
Hi. I just wanted to let everyone know that as of January 1st, income tax needs to go through RETA. So if you have any of your constituents ask any tax questions, any forms, any payments, anything of that sort, needs to be directed to Rita. I updated the city's income tax page with all of Rita's contact information. I also want to let everyone know that right now Rita doesn't have all the tax information. They have one more extract to do from CCA, January 19th. Once that extract is done, it will take them about a week and a half to 2 weeks to verify all the information and then test all the information before they get it up in their system. So for the time being, if people need to make a payment, they can't use the automated service on Rita's website, right, or Rita's phone number right now, or their website. Taxpayers can do the fast file method. So if they have their W-2 now, have nothing else coming, they can do a fast file. It will upload into their account, into Rita's information, and nothing will be affected once they do that final extract from CCA. They will remain filed in Rita's system for 2020. But after that extract's done, the taxpayers will have full use of all of Rita's stuff. So they'll be able to set up an account. They'll be able to use the automated phone system to make any sort of payment, any sort of questions. They can ask general tax questions now. The only problem that they would have now is if they're asking Rita for, say, how much did I pay in estimates for 2020? They won't be able to supply that information currently, just because they just don't have the tax history yet from CCA. Like I said, CCA will close out the month here in another week or so. We'll do that final extract, and then come the very end of January, beginning of February, I think in the welcome letter it said February 1st, they'll have all that information. So all the taxpayers will have full use of Rita's website and automated phone service on February 1st. So right now, Rita can help with general questions. If people need to make payments, they either just need to mail the payment to the PO box. It will get applied properly to their Rita account, or the people will need to make their tax payments to the city of Barberton, which they can make those payments at our drive-through window here at the finance department. Other than that, the finance department is working on trying to get the month of December closed and the year end closed. As soon as we get that closed, we will get the monthly council report out to all our council members. And then I will also get the budget updated with all the actuals and turn it over to the mayor for him to review everything one more time. And then hopefully we can get the budget to you guys here shortly. And with that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Jeremy. And you, everybody in the city did receive that welcome letter, right?
They should have, yes. As long as they had
I haven't had one question about that, and we got ours, of course. And the only thing is, do a lot of people actually file before the end of January?
You have some people. You do have some people that like to get their taxes out of the way as soon as they get their W-2 form, especially if they know they have no other tax forms. Some people like to get it out of the way as soon as they get that W-2. They want to get their federal file. They want to get their state file. They want to get their city tax file. So you do have a handful of people. Most people do wait till February 1st. I don't think the federal government really processes any tax returns until middle or end of January. So they're basically going to be operating off the same schedule the federal government will. It's just they just don't have the tax history yet. They'll have the tax history here in a few more weeks. They'll have all the taxpayer information and history to where they'll be able to assist customers even further.
Okay, as slow as the mail's been, a lot of people probably won't even have their W-2s at the end of January. But anyway, thank you so much for all those updates. Does anybody else have anything for the good of the body? No hands. All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Thank you, Carla. Motion made by Mrs. Bevick and seconded by Mrs. Angeloff. And we are adjourned at 6:24.
Okay, we're just going to go right into our next meeting. Is Mr. Hunt there?
I am here. Laura, would it be possible to share my screen?
Laura says yes.
Okay, I've made you a presenter, so you should be able to share your screen. If you see the dots at the bottom of your screen, it says mic, camera, screen. If you click screen, it should share it.
Yeah, it's at, okay.
There you are.
I got it. I can see it. That's awesome. Technology. Good job, Justin.
It wasn't me.
Okay.
That wasn't me.
Today is Monday, January 4th, 2021. This is Barberton City Council Committee of the Whole meeting. Before we get the meeting going, we have a public hearing. Mr. Hunt of the Planning Department has requested a meeting to discuss zoning map amendment to Austin Drive. I call this meeting ordered. This is a public hearing of the Barberton City Council. Today is Monday, January 4th, 2021. Clerk, could you call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Angela.
Here.
Mrs. Coburn.
Here.
Mrs. DeBebe.
Here.
Mrs.
Here.
Fry.
Here.
Okay. Mr. Griffin.
Here.
Mr. Heidick.
Here.
Mr. Jaber.
Here.
Mr. Medges.
Here.
I'm here too.
Okay, Mr. Hunt, you're up.
Oh, I called you. Sorry.
Thank you, Council. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Everyone, am I loud and clear?
Yes.
Yes.
So there's no address for the subject parcel tonight, but if you're familiar with Mesquite Lane and Brookdale Senior Living, that parcel, it's a 4-acre parcel that's currently vacant land that the Bob Lemon, the current owner, him and his development team are requesting this rezoning proposal. And typically, I know that we have the developer oftentimes in the meeting for rezonings, but because of the nature of tonight's meeting, we do not have that luxury. So the parcel in question you can see here on the current zoning map. This is the current zoning map that reflects what's on the ground today. On Austin Drive here, you'll see this outline. This is the 4-acre parcel, currently zoned C3. That's commercial center zoning. What they're proposing is single family attached, which is RA16. So this would be a down zoning. If you look at our development code, C3 actually permits many more uses than RA16. I would hate to sum up the list because you'd read on and on what commercial center, what those uses that are allowed. There's probably over 100 uses though, whereas RA16 allows roughly 10 to 15 uses, and it's more geared for residential uses. So this is a more restrictive zoning, certainly. Site. As I mentioned, this site sits adjacent to Brookdale Senior Living, and then to the east of that, there's single-family homes. To the south, there's multifamily homes. That chart there kind of sums up the uses. So yeah, and there's commercial uses also to the north and also to the west here. Most of you are familiar with the site, but just in case, here's a couple photos that we captured of the site. This is looking west. Again, so this is the tract of land that's in question. On December 16th, we had a public meeting before the Planning Commission. At that time, 3 Planning Commission members were present, and they voted to recommend to City Council the rezoning request for this parcel. That was approved from C3 to RA16. So there were many questions that came up at the Planning Commission meeting. Overall, there wasn't any strong opponents or proponents for the zoning change, just mostly folks that are in question or folks that had called in to inquire what the zoning change was about. So although this site plan has not been approved, the developer has been working with Ryan Homes to develop a townhome concept for roughly 39 market rate townhomes in the $160,000 to $170,000 price point range. As you can see, these are kind of clustered homes, and they'd be on a loop drive. They'd be centered on a loop drive. They are market rate. So we had a housing study done in 2014. That study revealed that the city lacked new market rate housing. So that is a need that could be filled if this rezoning were to go through. And also how the site is situated currently. We did a staff review report, which I'll have in all of your mailboxes here shortly. But our staff report found that there are really no unintended consequences, what we felt that could come out of this rezoning. You know, if it's a market need, the site kind of sits in between kind of a mixture of uses. You have commercial to the north, you have multifamily to the south, and then you have a number of residential single-family homes there to the east. So with that being said, I can take questions on behalf of the developer. But again, this is a rezoning request. So what I'm showing right now on my screen, this has not been approved. This is only a preliminary site plan that potentially could be approved if this rezoning were to move forward.
Mr. Hunt, I have a question here. That, if I see that right, is that a dead end that they have in there on the, I know it's not approved site plan, but is that typical to have a dead end run off like that on the side of the parcel?
So you're seeing, yeah, there is a turnaround. Because of the configuration of this site, they had a prior preliminary site plan that they submitted to us that had 4 dead ends, 4 of these. And working with Greg Tracy, we told them that was through our development code. Actually, you can't have stub streets. So we're not viewing this as a stub street, relatively speaking, compared to what was being proposed before. They're showing this as more of a turnaround for cars that would be backing out of a drive. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. I seen this, and it brought up some of the conflicts we had with one of the other developments here in the city of Barberton on a little stretch like that, on like who owned it, who maintained it type stuff when things were transferred to a new developer. So that's why I was just asking.
And Mr. Hunt, there is on-street parking, correct?
That's currently what they're proposing, yes. Where a driveway would not be blocked, obviously, there would be room for on-street parking. I think they're proposing a 50-foot wide cartway. Is that right, Greg? I don't know if Greg is on the call.
Yeah, I can't zoom in on that enough to see it on this one, but the right of way I thought was 40, which would probably limit on-street parking.
It would limit that. And this allotment would have a HOA, homeowners association.
That's what the developer has represented. Yes, it would have a homeowners association. I think they said it would be roughly $40 a month, if I remember correctly, from our planning commission meeting. Although those details have not been finalized, but it would be fairly minimal compared to other homeowners associations in the area. And that would just be to maintain the common areas, like this retention pond. And it does say, I have another site plan I'm able to blow up. It does say that the actual roadway width is 42 feet, 42 feet wide.
So if there was on-street parking, it would likely be limited to one side of the road.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Hunt. Hearing Mr. Hunt?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, what about, there's a couple questions I want to ask, because we have that problem right up the road, is the parking on both sides of the street, and it's really congested because of the, we got to make sure we got to have the street wide enough. And also is, there's some constituents up there talking about the school bus turnarounds and stuff up in there. Have you figured out how that's going to work? Versus the HO and who takes care of the trees. There's a lot of things, problems that I have up at the other development on the other side of Snyder, back up there on the top of the hill there, top of Herm's Court. Is really congested up there. So I don't know if we should try and have the same thing, make sure we don't have the same problems in this new development as we have in the old one, so it should really be addressed before we do it.
That's certainly good input. Again, the subject of the meeting tonight is for the rezoning. So this site plan, I shared it with you. It's not been approved.
Okay.
Service Director Greg Tracy and I will work. This site plan is not showing things such as street lighting and sidewalks. Those would be requirements. We'll probably work with them to fine tune some of these items that they've already submitted to us. This was just to give an idea of what could possibly exist in the form of a general footprint and kind of the massing and density. As Councilwoman Angeloff had mentioned, these would be 3-story with the ground floor being the parking, and then 2 living floors above, all under 35 feet in height, which is the height for the zoning district here.
Okay.
But yes, if you do have any comments apart from the rezoning itself, we'd be happy to share those with the developer and in our review per the development code, enforce what we can on your behalf.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Hunt?
I'm here, yes.
Thank you. I was just wondering, I haven't heard any feedback from anyone at all. I was just curious about the homes there in the villas, if you've had any feedback from the residents there and how close. I guess when I'm looking at the picture, I'm concerned about the dead end into, it appears on this picture, essentially someone's backyard. If we could end up with cars in their backyard. I'm sure that this is just a photo, so I'm not, and it's obviously not, it's just a preliminary preliminary sketch, but I wonder if you could address some of those things.
Yeah, so at the Planning Commission meeting, and we've also fielded some phone calls, just general inquiries on what's happening here when they got word that there's a rezoning occurring. So the largest concern from the property owners there in the single-family homes was the row of trees. They wanted to make sure that the developer was going to commit to preserve that row of trees because it serves as a buffer. So we have on record that the developer is willing to preserve that row of trees. They were going to do it anyhow, but they've confirmed that on record. In terms of other feedback and that dead end street. That's something good to bring up. Again, we haven't approved this final site plan, so we can take another look at maybe there's some that sub road here. Maybe there's some other treatments that can be utilized to prevent headlights from going into the backyards of some homes. The developer seems to be accommodating. I can't speak for them tonight since they're not on the record or here, but that's an issue certainly that we can bring up. And then the other question that we largely received from others that were at the meeting, they wanted to make sure that these were not rental units, that they were for market rate. And we have that commitment as well from the developer here that they will not be rental units.
Okay,
those were the larger issues that I remember.
Mr. Hunt, I believe that it was said in the planning commission meeting that role of the evergreen trees, those huge trees, are actually on this piece of property, not part of the villas. But they had no intentions of cutting those down anyhow. That buffer's going to stay there.
That's correct. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Director Hunt, may I?
Go ahead, Mr. Heidi.
Thank you. You said this is roughly 4 acres of C3. Has there been any sort of marketing to using this for business? I mean, that seems to be a decent sized plot of land, and C3 has a lot of uses. Has there been any interest at all over maybe developing that into something commercial for business use, or has it just sat pretty much dead to the world?
The developer, when Mr. Lemon, when he came to speak to us after he had purchased the land, said that he had purchased this at auction, and I think he was the only bidder on this parcel of land. I think it had been marketed for years as the current zoning C3 for commercial uses. The site configuration may have limited that to some degree. I don't know also the history of providing easements through the shopping plaza up there to the north, but I think that had been explored, but there were no takers on the commercial, following up with the commercial use of this location. I will speak from a broader picture, not only in Barberton, but the region as a whole. There's been some studies put out that the region has a much larger commercial presence. So we're over commercialized compared to what we can support. And that's why we have a number of vacancies throughout the region. From a planning standpoint, especially when we're seeing more and more people turning to online sales, I don't necessarily perceive this as a bad thing of providing more housing and less commercial land use. That's, in my opinion, based on some of the information I'm getting, both at a national and state level from the planning side of things.
Thank you.
And it will bring in some property taxes to our general fund too.
I have one more question.
Go ahead, Mrs. Berry.
Thank you. So I know that I see that there's a retention pond configured here in this preliminary drawing. Do we foresee any flooding issues as far as those homes on that street there? I'm just picturing that the trees kind of sit up a little bit, and you mentioned the height of the homes. the new proposed homes would be 3 stories, and the majority of those homes there on that street are ranch. They're going to sit lower, I believe. Do we believe that that is proper retention? Because obviously once we develop this, that increases the amount of water that cannot be absorbed.
So my understanding is that they will have to have this engineered out, and the reason they selected that portion of the site for the retention pond is that that's the lowest point on the actual site itself. So gravity will lead the water there. But my understanding is that they have to show calculations. They have to have an engineer come in and show calculations that will be a net zero difference in the runoff from the site. So we'll have Caroline, who works with Greg, review this as well. She does those calculations for us in-house, but they'll privately have to support that argument as well. So the engineering and math should point towards that being taken care of, but we'll confirm that.
Thank you. I'm just concerned about possible water issues there, just after, picturing the area. Thank you.
Okay, does any council members or members of the administration have any other questions? No. Does anyone in the gallery have any questions? Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Are there any other questions or comments? Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, this public hearing is over at 6:47. Okay, now we'll start our committee meeting. Okay. All right, I call this committee of the whole meeting together on Monday, January 4th, 2021. It is 6:47. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Council Rule 103 states that the regular and committee of the whole meetings shall be at 7:30 p.m. Since we are starting earlier in this, we will need to invoke Council Rule 702. Mrs. DeBevick, do I have a motion?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to make a motion to invoke Council Rule 702 to suspend Council Rule 301. Is that the right?
103.
103. Okay, sorry, I had them transposed. I would like to invoke Council Rule 7. Make a motion to invoke Council Rule 702 to suspend Council Rule 103.
Okay, that's 103 and 702.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, no problem. Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Mr. President. I will second the motion to invoke Council Rule 702.
Okay, thank you. Motion was made by Mrs. DeBevick and second by Mr. Heidick to invoke Council Rule 702 to suspend Council Rule 103. Are there any remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we'll go into our meeting. First of all, I want to say that earlier today, Laura Price was sworn in by Judge McKinney. She is officially our clerk. So she's with us for now.
We're here.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Welcome aboard.
Glad to have you on board, Lori.
Please be patient.
She's a very nice lady. You'll like her when you see her.
Okay. Are there any citizens addressing council, Laura? Hey, Laura, are there any citizens addressing council?
Not
Okay.
that I know. No.
All right, we'll go right into our committee reports. First off is Mrs. Angeloff in Planning, Annexations, and Codes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning, Annexation, and Codes met remotely this evening, January 4th at 6:07. All members were present, along with all council members and guests as noted on my sheet. We have one piece of legislation request. It's a draft ordinance titled Zoning Map Amendment, Austin Drive, authorizing the rezoning of parcel 01.013686, a 4.04 acre parcel on Austin Drive, from C3 Community Center Commercial to RA16 Single Family Attached. Mr. Hunt had his public hearing, gave us a PowerPoint presentation. Thank you very much for that. That kind of answered a lot of questions. This, because it is a rezoning, will go 3 readings, and we called for this on council for next week, but it will go 3 readings. The second piece, I had an appointment for the Design Review Board, Joyce Barron. It's a 3-year appointment, January 1st, 2021, and it goes through December 31st, 2023. We had a motion to call for this, and miscellaneous discussion from Mr. Jabber. He wanted to thank the planning department for the feedback on the businesses that the planning commission will be meeting on January 20th. And with that, we adjourn at 6:12, and with that, that's all.
Thank you very much. Next up is Mr. Greer with Street, Sidewalk, and Lighting.
Thank you, Mr. President. Street, Sidewalk, and Lighting met today virtually January 4th, 2021 at 6 p.m. All members of the committee were present, as well as guests noted by the clerk. We had no requests for legislation. Miscellaneous discussion. Mr. Tracy thanked the businesses in the city for cooperating during Christmas and the snow ban. It helped a lot to getting the snow cleared and taking care of our roads. There was nothing else, and Street, Sidewalk, and Lighting adjourned at 6:03, and with that, I pass.
Thank you very much. Next up is Mrs. Coburn with City Utilities.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Utilities met last year. We haven't had a meeting yet this year, and we have no legislation to call for at this time. And with that, I pass.
Thank you. Next up is Mrs. DeBevick with Public Welfare and Safety.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Welfare and Safety also have not met yet this year, and we have no legislation to call for. So with that, safety will pass.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Griffin at Rules, Marketing, and Development.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rules, Market, and Development, we haven't met this year either. We met last year, the 21st. With that, we don't have any legislation requests. With that, I pass, sir.
Thank you very much. Next up is Mr. Jaber with Environmental Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. President. Environmental Health and Social Services met January 4th, 2021 at 6:04. All members present online. Council members also present online. And guests were noted from the Secretary. We had no new request for legislation, and we had no miscellaneous discussion. And with that, we adjourned at 6:05. And with that, I pass, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Heidick with City Properties, Parks, and Recreation.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Properties, Parks, and Recreation have not met this year. We will be meeting next week. I would just like to put out there, Barberton Parks and Recreation did have a Facebook post today thanking the numerous people making all the lights and all the festivities downtown possible. It's way too many to list right here, but I encourage people to look at Barberton Parks and Recreation page on Facebook to see the whole list of the many, many, many volunteers and organizations that contributed to this. Also on our sheets, it says the Parks and Recreation Commission is scheduled for Thursday, January 7th. It is actually Thursday, January 28th. So that has been moved to January 28th. With that, I pass.
Thank you very much. Next up is Mrs. Fry with Finance and Personnel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance and Personnel met this evening, Monday, January the 4th, online. All members of the committee were present, as well as all council people and guests as noted on my meeting sheet. We had no requests for legislation tonight. We only had one item on our agenda, which was an appointment for the Board of Zoning Appeals. The person that we are going to appoint is Richard Waltz. It is for a 3-year appointment commencing on January 1st, 2021 and ending December 31st, 2023. In miscellaneous discussion, Mr. Jaber had some questions about Mr. Waltz, which the mayor answered. Mr. Flaker, our finance director, gave us some information about the new tax authority that will be handling Barberton's city taxes rather than CCA. It is now Regional Income Tax Association. And all of the citizens of Barberton should have received a welcome letter from Rita. However, Rita has one more extraction from CCA to bring all of the information into their system. This will be done on January the 19th. And at this particular point, the automated system online cannot be used. And Mr. Flaker also said that everything will be up and running by February the 1st. So if we get any questions from our constituent. Finance is doing the year-end reports, and he will have the actuals for the budget to the mayor shortly, and then we should all receive our copies of the budget to start going over those. We adjourned our meeting at 6:24 p.m., and with that, I will pass.
Thank you. Mayor's report.
All right, just a few updates here. First, on Thursday, January 14th, we put on social media, Grace Church in Barberton on Westland Avenue will have car seats available, working with Safe Mobility. So it's a great, and Summit County, great program to help parents in need a car seat for their little ones. And so looking forward to that on January 14th. You do need an appointment. So that's a good thing. A few updates on COVID. First on the unemployment side. Sorry, don't have the unemployment graph in front of me. On the COVID numbers, though, so as I mentioned last time, there's several new strains throughout the world of COVID, and just last week they were saying that it had not reached the U.S. By last Tuesday evening, it had reached the U.S. So they found a case in Colorado. They also found a case in California. It originated, they're saying, in the U.K. So with a lot of mutations, a lot of changes. So we've been kind of trying to track the different variants and the different rumors that have been coming out since this started back in March. So those are reported cases. They're in many of the countries throughout the world. And so the scientists and the CDC and the World Health Organization are trying to do as much research and get input on the new variants and how they react with the current vaccine and how they affect young people and old people and people with pre-existing conditions, things like that. In terms of state of Ohio, there's been since last Tuesday a 7.7% increase in cases for the state. This is 7 out of the last 8 weeks. The state of Ohio has had over 50,000 cases in a week. So we're continuing to track that. The death rate is increasing since last Tuesday, 6.6%. That's last Tuesday in the state. But the presumed recovered cases is increasing as well. So that's a good sign. Here in Summit County, there's been 7.7% increase from last Tuesday in Summit County in cases. But the death rate in Summit County has gone up quite a bit. It's just over 20% since last Tuesday. So, as we track this and continue to monitor and make sure that everyone's following all protocols that we have so we can continue our operation, it's very important that we adhere to everything that's coming from the CDC, the feds, the state of Ohio, and the county. New CARES Act bill was signed last week. There is no money for counties or municipalities in the form that has come out. There is a stimulus of $600 per, if you meet the qualifications, per person. The president, after he signed that bill, did come out and say that he wanted that stimulus up to $2,000. So the Democrats and Republicans are kind of arguing that point, but the bill was signed by the president, and so I believe last Friday some people should have gotten the stimulus checks. There is a lot of money set aside in the bill that was passed and signed by the president for small businesses. So that should start trickling in. And so we'll see what happens with the House and the Senate over the next few weeks, especially since there'll be some new members coming in. I believe Georgia has an election tomorrow. So a new package could be on the horizon in the coming weeks to months. So we're tracking that as well. So just a lot. I can throw stats at you all night and things. If you have any specific questions on unemployment or stats from the state of Ohio, the county, our zip code, hospitalizations or vaccines or anything like that, let me know, and I can get that information to you. So we'll get the budget to you as soon as we can. There's been a lot of changes, obviously, since last Jeremy and I spoke a few weeks ago about the budget, but we'll get that to you as soon as possible, and then we can start moving forward with budget hearings, get that passed, and then start moving forward with some of the projects and programs that we have planned. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Any remarks from the body?
Mr. President.
Mr. Britt.
I just wanted to thank Keith, Nick, yourself, Mr. President, the mayor, and Laura for powering through this to get this meeting virtual. It was a long time coming, and you guys put it together really fast. Heck of a first week, Laura. So, but you guys did it, and it turned out all right. I mentioned this in the email. I do have a proposal for some things that council to consider with attendance and some notes and some suggestions from my point of view. And I realize this is one step at a time. This is all new for a lot of people, so we'll move through it slow. But at some point here in the near future, I would like to see a full dialogue with public in this as well. And I have that stuff that I'm proposing has kind of an outline that we could follow. It's not set in stone or anything. It's just suggestions that would allow council to interact with public on these meetings as well. I know it makes things a little bit more complicated, but that's why I said near future, if we can get comfortable with what we have now. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, Mr. President.
Go for it.
Mr. Vivek, hope you're feeling better. It looks like you're a little tired and you're coughing and stuff. Hope you feel better. And hope you ever had a good New Year's. Today, seeing online, Mr. Greer said he's running for president of the council. This should be a fun election for everybody. And it should be nice to see Mr. Magis having somebody to go against, and maybe somebody else might jump up on board. So this will be a nice, fun primary. Let's remember we're all in it for a reason, for the best of Barberton. So good luck to everybody who's running for president and at large. And with that, I pass.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. This meeting is adjourned at 7:06. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thanks, Lori. You did
Thanks,
awesome.
Lori.
Justin,
Thank
thanks
you
for
all.
technology again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Yep.
Hey, hi.